It's called a Qualified School Construction Bond. And let me talk about what makes it unique. First thing is this bond is a byproduct of the stimulus package. And so it was designed to stimulate the economy by creating jobs at the local level to renovate facilities. You cannot use this money to build a brand new facility. You cannot use this money to buy computers. You cannot use this money to buy buses. You can only renovate existing facilities, and that's exactly what it was designed for. So it's supposed to stimulate jobs. It's intended to be used by a school to repair projects. The other thing that makes this bond unique is typically you would go out, like in 2007, and you'd say, I need a new elementary school, and we need some other facilities, and you would determine how much it would cost to build a new elementary school and all the other projects. The difference with this is you qualify for an amount. You're told up front you will get no more than $6 million. Now you need to justify what you would spend that $6 million on. And so you're kind of going about the process backwards. So we qualified for $6 million, and the state has already been awarded all of this money. And so if you don't end up passing the bond, the money just goes back into the pot and they redistribute it out to another school district, okay? Here were the projects that we identified that we would like to renovate. The first, as you see, many of y'all have heard about the track that we've been working on, and I brought in an example of what our old track used to look like. When you get a chance, you need to come over and squeeze this. It's about as hard as concrete. And so one of the things I was telling our voters when we were trying to pass this bond is we were going to a surface that looked like this. This is what the University of Texas has. This is what Texas A&M has, Ohio State, LSU. It's one of the best. And so the difference between the surfaces is imagine running 11 seconds in the 100 meters on this surface, and then squeeze your spikes into this and you'll run about 10.75. That's the difference. And this lasts 2 times longer. It's the best. And so we had allocated a significant amount of money for our track because we didn't want to replace it again anytime soon. And since we're the 3-time state champions for 3A track and field, we felt like that we deserved a quality facility. Other renovations is we allocated $1.8 million to renovate the old Anderson Elementary School. And I'm going to show you pictures of all of this in a second. But we wanted to convert that into an educational service center that was not only an administration building, but we could also use it for the community. We had other ADA compliance issues that we needed to meet with athletics. If you went out to our football stadium and went into the restrooms were not ADA compliant. You couldn't get a wheelchair in any of those stalls. We were missing ramps. We had violated several laws throughout the state because we weren't in compliance, and so we needed the money to initially get into compliance, but certainly to address some cosmetic issues too. HVAC renovations, we were looking at that, and I'll talk a little bit more about a grant that we applied for with that. The elementary school, we have a humongous elementary school that has no playground. And so there's a lot of discussion why there's not any playground, but the reality is there's no playground. So we need a playground, and we wanted to get the top of the line for our elementary school. And finally, 2 other projects that we wanted to address was the parking lot at the middle school. One of the issues we have is there's nowhere for our parents to park. They're parking in gravel with dirt and mud on the side of the school, and we felt like we could address that. And then we have some cosmetic issues with the interior and exterior paint of the entire school district, okay? Now, we had to get this bond approved. And I believe it was May 14, 2011, this was our approval rate. And it was significant. Now, I'll say one of the interesting things that happened with voting for this bond is the voting for the election day was actually the Saturday after we won the 3rd state championship in track. Impeccable timing. and we broke 2 state records, and we had 4 All-Americans on our track team, and this is with a high school with only 600 kids in it. And so we got a significant approval rating, but with this approval rating, and Pauline said it in a very articulate way, comes a significant amount of responsibility. One of my primary jobs is to be a good steward of our taxpayers' dollars. And I have to honor that, because every time I put myself out there and saying that we're going to do something as a district, I'm trying to buy equity with our community. Now, contractors don't have that mentality, but someone needs to facilitate it for the entire school district, and we need to do the things that we say that we have to do. So when you get an approval rating like this, you got to step up and you got to show up and do what you said you're going to do, okay? So let's talk about it. The financial benefits, this is one of the biggest assets to a qualified school construction bond. If you can lock this bond in beneath 5.6%, the feds will pay all the interest for it. So if you lock in the bond beneath 5.6%, you'll get 0 interest. We were able to lock the bond at 4.67%, which ultimately allowed us to save $4.6 million in interest alone over 15 years. Now I can tell you folks, in this economy, and especially in our profession, that's huge. Where we can get a bond that all we're paying down on is the principal alone. And so that is significant. So we really felt blessed to be able to save that much money for this bond. First, the track. Now, most schools, what they'll do is they will scrape off the old surface, and then they'll pour a new surface on top of the slab. The problem we initially thought we had is the slab had cracked, water got into the slab, and then ultimately the track started to peel up, peel away. So we decided that we needed to do the whole thing over, pull out the slab, pull out the surface, redo the entire track. Oddly enough, this track was 50 years old. Once we started digging up the track, we found out there was no slab. 50 years ago, they just kind of fill it in with a little bit of everything and some hard rock and this, that, and the other. And so we found that not only was this a poor surface, but it was poor 50 years ago. So we had a terrible track and field surface. So we decided to go with a company called Bynum, who has done a number of colleges, they've done a number of high schools, and they bring a variety of surfaces to choose from. And they do exceptional work, but they're expensive. And so we had 3 criteria. First, we were looking at quality of product. The second, we were obviously looking at cost. And then the third criteria is quality of service. Now I can tell you we actually spent a little bit more money for this track to go through this company, but the second best company had an inferior product, which would have brought us back to buying another track or having to repair the track in about 5 years. The track right now, you can see they've dug it up, then they started to frame the track, and then they poured asphalt with a cement border around the entire track. They are a week behind schedule right now. We are trying to squeeze in a full-blown track in between football games. And I can tell you folks, this has made my blood pressure go up because it is not easy to do. They were supposed to start pouring this rubber last week. And the way this track works is it's called a sandwich. The first thing that they put down, the first layer, is actually rubber that they use, I think they call it a trowel, like it's cement, and they push it out, and they spread it out so it's 10 millimeters thick. It's like a thick rubber band. And then once that cures, they come out with a machine that sprays pellets with adhesive, and that's the top part that your spikes stick in. Well, the deal is that all of that's going to take about a week or so to do, and they haven't started it yet. And we have a football game October 7th. And so they were supposed to start last week, and they're still not out there yet. So a guy showed up this morning, and he's prepping the track to get it ready for the rubber to be poured down, which they're going to be here Thursday. They got a crew coming in from Michigan, and they will work around the clock. And so hopefully by Monday, the track will be red, and then they'll be coming in and putting the second surface in shortly after that. Worst case scenario is October 7th gets here, we'll have a red track, but we won't have the stripes down yet because that takes 2 years for them to do, not 2 years, 2 days to do all the lines. It seems like 2 years. It takes them 2 days to put all the stripes and stuff, and so that may happen after October 7th. All right, let's move on.